Okay, this is for my Langdon Park students, year 10s, inspector calls. This is my first video during the coronavirus lockdown. I've been overthinking this and trying to make it perfect, and I think I'm just going to take this in one shot, upload it, and then see where we go. Let's start. Inspector calls. What you've done so far is you've read the play. You've done the creative writing. You have done the non-fiction writing. And I can send exemplars of both of these along. I can email those along with the link for this video. Now what we've done is we're moving the context into the application of the context. Application. And the way we did that was through looking at the Titanic. So you should all have this booklet. I've sent it on Milk as well. These are the Hindi and the Bengali and the Chinese and the modern English versions. And what we talked about was the Titanic and how the Titanic is a kind of metaphor for the whole play and how it's relevant. I'm just going to move in here. And the main thing you got to remember is the way the Titanic was this enormous luxury liner, and there was no sense that it was going to crash. Absolutely unsinkable is something that Burling repeats. And the thing is that the first class passengers were saved at a rate much higher than the third class passengers. So in addition to it being just an example of the arrogance of the rich, it's the privilege of the rich as well. This essay is an exploration of how you can think about the Titanic as an overall metaphor for that, and really how the play is a debate between two people, the inspector and Mr. Burling, and the idea of responsibility. We've also talked about in class, and this booklet talks about the multiple contexts, and how if you can start to be aware of the play being written in 1945, but set in 1912, and that for you in 2020, things might be a little bit different, particularly with the character of Eric, you really start to see the triple context of the play. And on page 4 of this, of our exemplar booklet, what we do is we try and walk you through how relevant context for each of the characters. So Mr. Burling, we have the idea of capitalism and striking. With Sheila, we get the idea of class and women's rights and the role of women. Gerald is the mirror image of that, the role of men in marriage and the privilege of men. Mrs. Burling, as she runs a charity, and charities were the only kind of means for someone in a marginal position like Ava Smith to seek help. It's important to think about the welfare state in the UK, also everything we can think about right now as well. Eric is the one that 2020 has really brought into light, which is the idea of what does consent mean, sexual assault, male privilege, and of course the inspector and socialism. And ultimately, like I said, the play is a debate between Burling and the inspector, capitalism, a form of capitalism, and socialism, the notion of responsibility, and the inspector being a kind of cipher for Priestley's own views. That's really at the core of the play. Now, the first essay the first thing I'd like you to do is to make sure that you have a good, strong, creative interior monologue. And when I resend the exemplars, you're going to see the quality that we're looking for. Secondly, I need a very strong nonfiction speech about context. And again, when I send you those exemplars, you'll see this isn't just something that you kind of run off. And now that you have months of time, and we're going to continue with the course, because whatever happens year 10s, you're the ones that will have to write the exam next year. You have to be able to get the quality up there. The next thing you got to do is a quality essay. And the main essays the most difficult essays you could work on, there are two, and I will send those emails as well. Here, let me just refocus this. Let me push this back. It's a little bit small. The two main essays would be the function of Eva Smith, who you never see in the play. What is the point of Eva Smith? Or what is the point of the inspector? And they're the two prepared essays I really want you to think about. And if you're having difficulty, you'll do the inspector one. And this essay plan is here explicitly for that reason. And if you want to stretch yourself, you'll do the Eva Smith one. So what happens when you get a question on an exam is you got to circle the keywords. Function of the inspector in this play, and how does Priestley present the character? Well, we know the inspector has a bunch of purposes. Function is purpose. He has a bunch of purposes. His purposes include he drives the plot, he reveals family secrets, he knows everything that happened to Eva. So in a way, he is the voice. He's Eva's voice. He also he is the voice of Priestley as well. He's presenting a vision of socialism, and he's arguing against this world of privilege of the Burlings and the Crofts, and to try and bring about equality, equity, and social responsibility. Once you define what the question's asking you to do, so here I've defined function, what that means to me, then I've got to pick 3 characters to link to the inspector. In this essay plan, I've linked to Burling, Inspector Sheila, Inspector Gerald. And I've done that because that's what I was interested in when I did this essay plan, but you could pick any 3. And again, if you are finding this difficult, you should use my essay plan. But if you want to stretch yourself, you should pick your own characters. There are many opportunities to continue stretching yourself here. When I think about those characters and context, I would simply go back to this page and pick whatever character I pick is the context I'm going to choose as well. Whatever character I'm going to pick, I'm going to go back to my Inspector Calls booklet and find extracts or quotations that are relevant to my character. And if I can't do that, what I can do is I can, of course, use the internet. The Google is an amazing way. Inspector Calls is all over this Inspector Calls. You will find infinite amounts of resources to help you get through this. If you have a computer and you're able to watch this and do something with it, that's fantastic. If you're not, it's going to make it harder. So I would love to see this essay within the next 2 weeks at a very high standard. And to my class, of course, I will take those essays in and I will give you feedback on how to improve, and then I'll take you to the next step. I'll be trying to make one of these videos once a week. Okay, what does a good essay need to do? An introduction needs to describe the context, the characters you're focusing on. Really focus on this idea of the inspector as someone who is powerful, all-knowing, outside. You can link to the themes. You can link to other characters. So I've given you my introduction here, which I think now you could do a lot better with it than me. Every paragraph has to have a topic sentence. So I'll just write down what a paragraph, of course, has. Topic sentence, evidence. I like ×2, so I'd like the basic plus a backup to back up your idea. You need analysis, and you need 3 types of analysis. You need language analysis, which is the words, the actual words used. What do they mean? What do they suggest? What are other possibilities? We use the metaphor of squeezing the lemon. You need form analysis. This is a play. the audience experiences something. Priestley wants the audience to feel something. Dramatic irony is soaked throughout the play. You need structure. So there are different moments in the play and things change. Every character you could see as their character prior to the inspector, how they act during the inspector's interrogation, and at the end. That would be a really simple structure. You should show some awareness of structure. Now, do you need to have all three of these in every paragraph? When you achieve mastery, no. But for now, as you're learning to get better at writing an essay, I would encourage you to think about just forcing yourself to engage in all three. Once you've analyzed, you must explain how all of this supports your argument, and you are going to want to apply context, and then a paragraph is good when it goes returns to question, and always go back to the argument. Now, the basic return to question would be to repeat the topic sentence. As you get stronger, you can make that more advanced. So my first topic sentence is, Priestley uses the inspector to help expose the arrogance of Mr. Burling. I've given you one quote here. I've given you some idea of how I might analyze it, and I've given you some partial scaffolding for how to approach that essay. In the next paragraph, I've given you less help, but I've given you a topic sentence again, but I haven't given you the evidence. And similarly with Gerald, I've given you even less. So it's a kind of fading scaffold. If for some reason you do not have this booklet or the materials you need to be successful for this work, please use Milk to email me or get in touch. This I did already send on Milk, which is the exemplar list. Once I upload this, I'm going to send a link to this to this video and the materials that I mentioned, the exemplars, and so that you can start your revision. This is a very difficult time, of course. I hope that you are safe. I hope that you're keeping yourself active physically, and you must keep yourself mentally fit. I have only taken these days to really pull myself together, and now I'm starting to use my mind again, and I already feel a lot better. So that's the first video, the role of the inspector. If you want to push yourself, you can go role of Ava Smith. Next week, I think I'm going to start looking at the exemplars in this pack, and we can start by looking at the Mr. Burling essay and then the Mrs. Burling essay. And what we've got to do, remember what we do, is we read exemplars to figure out what has a student done successfully. And then from that, we generalize, what do we need to do? And then a master starts to realize, well, I know this is what I'm supposed to do, and this style is how Dr. Jane writes, and this style is how this student writes, but I have my own style. When you start to develop your own style, your own approach, and when it has personal meaning to you, that's when your writing will become the best it can be. And that's what English is all about. Okay, please do not hesitate to get in contact with me on Milk. I look forward to hearing from you. Stay strong.